Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhaktivedanta Maharaj Ki Jai.
Vandeham Shri Guru Shiyata Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrachatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivishikam Vitam Scha Om Jnana Timarandasya Gyanachana Shalakya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhistam Supurakam Gurganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipunam Shri Rupa Patanugam Govinda Vidam Ujwalam Varatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Vande Vishwagurun Shah Divyad Bhagavat Premno Ebija Pranam Devam Divyatanum Suchana Varanam Balarka Chelan Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Varanam Vairagya Vidyambunim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Varam Banditam Shubharam Madeka Sharanam Nashishvara Shidharam Banshakopatarubyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavenibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. So reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami with translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupad. This is Adi-lila, Chapter 1, the Spiritual Masters, and this is verse number 92. Taramadye Mokamancha Kaitava Pradhan Jaha Hoite Krishna Bhakti Hoy Antardan. The foremost process of cheating is to desire to achieve liberation by merging into the Supreme, for this causes the permanent disappearance of loving service to Krishna. The desire to merge into the impersonal Brahman is the subtlest type of atheism. As soon as such atheism, disguised in the dress of liberation, is encouraged, one becomes completely unable to traverse the path of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prashabdena Mokha Bisandir Api Nirasta Iti. The prefix pra in the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam indicates that the desire for liberation is completely rejected. This is an annotation by Sridhar Swami, the great commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam. Dharma prochita kaitavostra paramo nirmat saranam satam vedyam vastavam atra vastu shivadam tapa trayon mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni krite kim va parar ishvara sadyo ridi avarudyate tra kriti bi sushru shubis tatshanat. And so the word we're talking about is from projita, dharma projita. And kaitava means it's rejected, it's kicked out. So projita here is speaking. The prefix pra in the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam indicates that the desire for liberation is completely rejected. Krishna Bhaktir Bhadaka Jata Shubha Shubha Karma Seho Ek Jiver Ajnana Tamodharma. All kinds of activities, both auspicious and inauspicious, that are detrimental to the discharge of transcendental loving service to Lord Sri Krishna are actions of the darkness of ignorance. So all kinds of activities, both auspicious and inauspicious, that are detrimental to the discharge of transcendental loving service to Lord Sri Krishna are actions of the darkness of ignorance. Even those activities are so-called auspicious if they're not conducive to devotion. They're not really there, here described as undesirable actions. The poetical poetical comparison of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda to the sun and moon is very significant. The living entities are spiritual sparks, and their constitutional position is to render devotional service to the Supreme Lord in full Krishna consciousness. So-called pious activities and other ritualistic performances, pious or impious, as well as the desire to escape from material existence, are all considered to be coverings of these spiritual sparks. The living entities must get free from these superfluous coverings and fully engage in Krishna consciousness. The purpose of the appearance of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda is to dispel the darkness of the soul. Before their appearance, all these superfluous activities of the living entities were covering Krishna consciousness. But after the appearance of these two brothers, people's hearts are becoming cleansed, and they are again becoming situated in the real position of Krishna consciousness. Jahara prasade e tamo hoy nash, tamo nash kore kore, tatvera prakash. By the grace of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, this darkness of ignorance is removed, and the truth is brought to light. Tattva Bastu Krishna Bhakti Prema Roop Nama Sankirtan Sab Ananda Swarup. Tattva Bastu Krishna Bhakti Prema Roop Nama Sankirtana Sab Ananda Swarup. The absolute truth is Sri Krishna, and loving devotion to Sri Krishna, exhibited in pure love, is achieved through congregational chanting of the holy name, which is the essence of all bliss. So it says here, Nama Sankirtan Sabananda Swarup. So the position of Nam Sankirtan, here translated as congregational chanting, but Nam Sankirtan Sab Ananda Swarup is the essence of all happiness, of all bliss. Surya Chandra Mahivir, Surya Chandra Mahirera Tamas Se Vinashe Mahirbastu Gatapata Arisen Prakashe. The sun and moon dissipate the darkness of the external world and thus reveal external material objects like pots and plates. The sun and moon dissipate the darkness of the external world and thus reveal external material objects like pots and plates. Okay. Dewey by, let's see here. So gata, water pots, patadi plates. All right. Dui by Ridayera, Kali Arakar, Dui Bhagavat, Sange, Karana, Sakatkar. But these two brothers, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, dissipate the darkness of the inner core of the heart, and thus they help one meet the two kinds of Bhagavatas, persons or things in relationship with the personality of Godhead. So two kinds of Bhagavats. And we will also say the two kinds of Bhagavats are the person Bhagavat, the Lord, and the book Bhagavat, Srimad Bhagavatam, or the scriptures. But these two brothers, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, dissipate the darkness of the inner core of the heart, and thus they help one meet the two kinds of Bhagavats, persons or things in relationship with the personality of Godhead. So what's being referred to here is the sun and moon will enable one to see external objects, and it's giving here water pots, plates, etc. You can see things in this world through the sun and moon. But these two brothers, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are compared to the sun and moon, they dissipate the darkness of the inner core of the heart. Not just you can see external objects through the sun and moon, but the sun and moon of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda enable you to see internally in the heart and dissipate that darkness. They help one meet the two kinds of Bhagavatas, persons or things in relationship to the personality of God. Or as we normally say about two Bhagavats, the person Bhagavat, the Lord, and the scriptures. So obviously, the inner, not just that you can see externally, but you can also see internally what it illuminates your heart, these two persons. Yeah?
That's maybe a stupid question, but then how do we get that association, or like their illuminance, how to like benefit from their radiance of what they're illuminating?
Well, that's what we're doing all the time, by our engagement in seeing the deities, hearing the scriptures. All this is giving us that internal illumination. Just engaged in devotional service, and it's all through the mercy of Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. Those are the lords of our worship. Ek Bhagavad Bora Bhagavad Shastra Ara Bhagavad Bhakta Bhakti Rasa Patra. One of the Bhagavatas is the great scripture Srimad Bhagavatam, and the other is the pure devotee absorbed in the mellows of loving devotion. So in this way, two Bhagavats. The scriptures, which are the incarnation of the Lord in the form of sound, in the form of scripture, and the other, pure devotee absorbed in the mellows of loving devotion. And we'll say the spiritual master, the exalted, because we say, as we heard from the first verse, the spiritual master is given in the form of plural, initiating spiritual master and instructing spiritual master. And there may be many instructing spiritual masters. One of the Bhagavatas is the great scripture Srimad Bhagavatam, and the other is the pure devotee absorbed in the mellows of loving devotion. Bhakta Bhakti Ras, the devotee who's engaged in Bhakti Ras, or here translated as the mellows of loving devotion, that ras, that taste which comes from bhakti. Dui Bhagavata Dwara Diya Bhakta Ras Tahara Ridoye Tara Preme Hoy Bas. Through the actions of these two Bhagavatas, the Lord instills the mellows of transcendental loving service into the heart of a living being, and thus the Lord, in the heart of his devotee, comes under the control of the devotee's love. So this is an answer also to your question. You asked, how do you get this in your heart? It says, Dui Bhagavata Dwara Diya Bhakti Ras. Bhakti Ras is that the taste for devotion or devotional service. Through the actions of these two Bhagavatas, the scriptures, one of the Bhagavatas is a great scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam, or scripture, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the other is the pure devotee absorbed in the mellows of loving devotion. Through the actions of these two Bhagavatas, the Lord instills the mellows of transcendental loving service. He instills within the heart this Bhakti Ras. Through the actions of these two Bhagavatas, the Lord instills the mellows of transcendental loving service into the heart of a living being. And thus the Lord, in the heart of his devotee, comes under the control of the devotee's love. Ek adbhuta samakale dohara prakash, aradbhuta chitta guhara tamakorenash. The first wonder is that both brothers appear simultaneously, and the other is that they illuminate the innermost depths of the heart. So the first wonder is that both brothers appear simultaneously, because they've been compared to the sun and the moon appearing simultaneously. And in in our experience, when the sun and moon appear simultaneously, they don't both appear on the same horizon. They don't both appear on the same horizon, the sun and the moon together. They won't be together on that horizon. They'll be apart. But the first wonder is that both brothers, who have been compared to the sun and moon, appear simultaneously. And it says they appear together on the horizon of Gauda, which is Bengal. The first wonder is that both brothers appear simultaneously, and the other is that they illuminate the innermost depths of the heart. E Chandra Surya Dui Parama Sadai Jagatera Bhagye Gode Korila Udai. These two, the sun and moon, are very kind to the people of the world. Thus, for the good fortune of all, they have appeared on the horizon of Bengal. These two, the sun and moon, are very kind to the people of the world. Thus, for the good fortune of all, they have appeared on the horizon of Bengal. The celebrated ancient capital of the Sen dynasty, which was known as Gauda Desh or Gauda, was situated in what is now the modern district of Malda. Later, this capital was transferred to the ninth or central island on the western side of the Ganges at Navadip, which is now known as Mayapur and was then called Gaudapur. Lord Chaitanya appeared there, and Lord Nityananda came there and joined him from the district of Birbhum. They appeared on the horizon of Gauda Desh to spread the science of Krishna consciousness, and it is predicted that as the sun and moon gradually move west, the movement they began 500 years ago will come to the Western civilization by their mercy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu drive away the 5 kinds of ignorance of the conditioned souls. In the Mahabharata, Udyoga Parva, 43rd chapter, these 5 kinds of ignorance are described. They are 1, accepting the body to be the self. 2, making material sense gratification one's standard of enjoyment. 3, being anxious due to material identification. 4, lamenting. And 5, thinking that there is anything beyond the absolute truth. So I'll repeat these. These 5 are accepting the body to be, let's see, the 5, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu drive away the 5 kinds of ignorance of the conditioned souls in the Mahabharata, Udyoga Parva. 43rd chapter, these 5 kinds of ignorance are described. They are 1, accepting the body to be the self. 2, making material sense gratification one's standard of enjoyment. 3, being anxious due to material identification. 4, lamenting. And 5, thinking that there is anything beyond the absolute truth. The teachings of Lord Chaitanya eradicate these 5 kinds of ignorance. Whatever one sees or otherwise experiences, one should know to be simply an exhibition of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's energy. Everything is a manifestation of Krishna. Sedui Prabhur Kore Charana Bandhan Ja Hoite Bignanash Abhishta Puran. Let us therefore worship the lotus feet of these 2 lords. Thus one can be rid of all difficulties on the path of self-realization. Edui shloke koila mangala bandhan tritiya shlokara arta shuna sarvajan. I have invoked the benediction of the Lord with these 2 verses, text 1 and 2 of this chapter. Now please hear attentively the purport of the 3rd verse. Okay, so the first 2 verses, we'll again read them. It says here, I have invoked the benediction of the Lord with these 2 verses, text 1 and 2 of this chapter. Now please hear attentively the purport of the third verse. So the first verse is, Bande Gurun Isha Bhaktan Isha Mishavatarakan Tat Prakasham Chatat Shakti Krishna Chaitanya Samgyakam. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual masters, the devotees of the Lord's incarnations, his plenary portions, his energies, and the primeval Lord himself, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And as I said, he uses the term spiritual masters in plural, the initiating spiritual master and the instructing spiritual master. They may be one, but one may have many instructing spiritual masters. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual masters, the devotees of the Lord's incarnations, his plenary portions, his energies, and the primeval Lord himself, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Bande Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Nityanando, Sahodito, Godaye, Pushpavanto, Chitro, Shando, Tamonudo. This is the second verse. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. Now please hear attentively the purport of the third verse. So the third verse is, Yad Advaitam Brahmopanishadi Tad Api Asya Tanuba Yad Atmantar Jami Purusha Iti Soshamsa Vivavaha Shad Aishvaryai Purno Ya Iha Bhagavan Sa Swayamayam Na Chaitanyat Krishna's Jagati Paratatvam Paramiha. And this third verse is, what the Upanishads describe as the impersonal Brahman is but the effulgence of his body, and the Lord known as the Supersoul is but his localized plenary portion. Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, full with 6 opulences. He is the absolute truth, and no other truth is greater than or equal to him. What the Upanishads describe as the impersonal Brahman is but the effulgence of his body, and the Lord known as the Supersoul is but his localized plenary portion. Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, full with 6 opulences. He is the absolute truth, and no other truth is greater than or equal to him. So, now please hear attentively the purport of this third verse. Bhaktavya Bahuya Granta Vistarer Dare Vistarena Barni Sararta Kohi Alpakare. I purposely avoid extensive description for fear of increasing the bulk of this book. I shall describe the essence as concisely as possible. Mitam cha saram cha vacho e vagmita iti. Mitam cha saram cha vacho e vagmita iti. Now this simple description, this is really the essence of understanding, and this verse is very important to speaking, writing. It is mitam cha saram cha vacho e vagmita iti. Essential truth spoken concisely is true eloquence. Essential truth spoken concisely is true eloquence. So this indicates that when you're just giving a lot of big words and big verbose, accounts with an extensive vocabulary, speaking in a way that no one understands, that's not eloquence. People think to have a big vocabulary and speak in a very ornate way, that's true eloquence. But here, the Chaitanya Charitamrita mentioned Essential truth spoken concisely is true eloquence. Shunile kandibe chitera agyanadi dash Krishna gada prima habe paibe santosh. Shunile kandibe chitera agyanadi dosh Krishna gada prima habe paibe santosh. Simply hearing submissively will free one's heart from all the faults of ignorance, and thus one will achieve deep love for Krishna. This is the path of peace. Simply hearing submissively will free one's heart from all the faults of ignorance, and thus one will achieve deep love for Krishna. This is the path of peace. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Dvaita Mahatva Tarabhakta Bhakti Nama Prema Rasa Tattva Bina Bina Liki Jache Korea Bichar Shunile Janibe Sab Vastu Tattvasar. If one patiently hears about the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, and Sri Advaita Prabhu, and their devotees, devotional activities, names and fame, along with the mellows of their transcendental loving exchanges, one will learn the essence of the absolute truth. Therefore, I have described these in the Chaitanya Charitamrita with logic and determination, with logic and discrimination. One patiently hears about the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, and Sri Advaita Prabhu, and their devotees, devotional activities, names, and fame, along with the mellows of their transcendental loving exchanges. One will learn the essence of the absolute truth. Therefore, I have described these in the Chaitanya Charitamrita with logic and discrimination. Sri Rupa Raghunath Padijara As Chaitanya Charitamrita Kohe Krishnadas, praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi-lila, first chapter, describing the spiritual masters. So we only had a few verses today, but I'll wait till the next reading to continue with chapter 2. So I didn't give readings as many days this week as I wanted, but I feel that now that the calendar has come out for the year, I'm trying to make that available to devotees in our temple, because people have been asking me for a long time. The calendars came out late, and people want to know dates to make plans and know when are the festivals, etc. So trying to make that available. So, and tomorrow have the meeting with the devotees, that Zoom meeting in Spanish, and Sunday in English. So now I'll sing Hari Haraya. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Charavaya Nama Hari Haraya Charavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopal Govinda Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madan-Mohan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Janardan Seva Sadi Gauda Bhaktivedanta Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhattaraguna Sri Jiva Gopala Bhattadasa Raguna Jai Gosai Kori Charana Mandan Jai Te Vignana Shavishta Puran Jai Gosai Char Mui Karadas Sasavar Pararenu Mora Panchagras Kader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas Janame More Abilas Jai Gosai Jabe Bhaje Koilabas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindaban Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majahi Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyash Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Narottam Mudas Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyash Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Narottam Mudas Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare Nitai Gaura Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Nitai Gaura Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhara Ju Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajaka Charyashta Tara Sadasi Shimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajaka Charyashta Tara Sadasi Shimad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Sananta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Rupanuga Guru Bharga Ki Jai Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasha Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Prem Sigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai Srila Vrindaban Das Thakur Ki Jai Sri Chaitanya Bhagwat Ki Jai Narottam Srinivas Shamananda Prabhu Ki Jai Vishvavarinya Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupad Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Kusham Ashram Maharaj Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Navadip Dham Ki Jai Sri Ram Mayapur Ki Jai Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Saparshada Shriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai Shri Kuladvip Ki Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Sevashram Ki Jai Ganga Devi Ki Jai Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Vrindaban Dham Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Govardhan Sham Kunda Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Ju Ki Jai Shri Purushottam Adam Ki Jai Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Ju Ki Jai Bhakti Vigna Vinashaya Shri Nishingadev Ki Jai Bhakta Prabhara Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrina Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai all the assembled devotees Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol
Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj Ki Jai